So tonight's discussion is actually going to be on how do you schedule in the cloud. We are going to be covering two major providers. One is going to be Cloud Foundry, the other one is going to be Kubernetes. And the project that we're going to use to kind of simplify this is going to be Spring Cloud Scheduler. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, I'm Glenn. You're probably used to seeing me around, and you probably look like that when you do see me. So the first thing I want to do cover about scheduling is the emotional aspect of being told you've got to work on a scheduling project. Usually the first one is, I got to work on a scheduling project? No. Then the second one is, I don't want to work on a scheduling project. Isn't there maybe sorting socks or something else I can do? Then usually it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be an exciting project. And then the one I've never seen before is somebody actually saying, yay, I get to work on a scheduling project. It doesn't happen. So I wanted to cover the emotional side first, but what are we going to be covering tonight? The first thing is what we want to do as a foundation is we want to talk about what a scheduler is going to do, and that is basically we want to be able to schedule an application to run. We want to remove that schedule or unschedule it, and we want to get a listing of the available schedules. Now, when we talk about scheduling applications, there's certainly a wider breadth of what do you do after you've done your scheduling, as such a thing as did it actually launch? Is it running? Did it terminate normally? Did it terminate abnormally? Do we have restartability? There's a lot of other questions, and that's actually going to be either another lightning talk, or I'm actually may take this talk and enhance it more to cover that side of it. But for tonight, we're just going to focus on these three things. If not, you're going to be here till late. So like we said before, we're going to be covering two cloud providers. We're going to be talking about Cloud Foundry and how it does scheduling. That's going to be through the PCF scheduler. Through Kubernetes, we're going to be using cron jobs. You're going to say, hey, is there anything else that they offer natively? The answer right now is no. I like that. That really bassy sound. I hate to see what it's going to sound like in recording. I apologize up front to the guys that got to clean that out. So first thing I want to do is kind of cover what the commonality is between the two. And by the way I wanted to show that to you is actually showing you what it takes to use their command line features. Each one has a rich set of APIs that they offer, but at the same time they said, hey, I know y'all love writing, puts, posts, and gets, but let's give you a nice little API here or CLI to do it with. So through Cloud Foundry, if you've never done Cloud Foundry, the foundation is always CF push. You give it an app name, and then you specify what you want to push up there. Then what you want to do is create a job, and you specify the app name you want to, and then followed by what? The scheduler name or the name of the schedule you want to call it. And then lastly, you want to have the Java command that you want to use to actually execute that given job or that given application. And then once the third step is you want to actually schedule your job, and you specify again the job name and then your magic cron expression down here. Kubernetes does it in one line. Kubernetes says kubectl run the name of the schedule you want to call it. I called it my schedule. You want to specify your cron expression. Then you'll have the word restart, and restart basically, if you don't specify it, it will always say I think it's on failure, and that basically means if it fails or returns a non-zero, it's going to keep restarting it forever. I recommend probably you want to handle your errors versus just having it restart forever and specify never. That's the only two options you're given for that. And then you specify your Docker image, which is, in this case, we're using a little app that I have out there available on the Spring Cloud. So what are the similarities between these two? The similarities are you have to specify a schedule name. You want to specify the application, and you are going to pull from one of two repositories. One is going to be the Docker, and in the other case we're going to show you a little bit later on, we're going to use a Maven Central, actually pull a jar from Maven Central. So you got to be able to pull that application in so that it can actually be run. You want to pass in command line arguments, or you can pass in properties, or both. It's up to you. So in this case, how do you want your app to behave? What database do you want to connect to? Those will be handled through the properties, or if you're really brave with command line args, I recommend properties. And My gosh, it's full of cron. Yes, cron is the only thing that they have available out there. But the thing to remember is that I know at least in one of the cases they can actually add calendar and whatnot. And so in Spring Cloud Scheduler, we have added the ability that when they do add that in, we can certainly give you the machinations to be able to use calendar or cron. But for right now, everything is cron. So we've talked about similarities between them. We've talked about what they need to be able to do. Now we're going to talk about what are just the primary methods of Spring Cloud Scheduler. I know scheduling is so exciting and I'm holding up from the beers, but we will keep trudging on. So in this case, we're looking at this, the first one is a schedule where you pass in a schedule request. A schedule request is nothing more than what we just discussed. It's a schedule name, the app repository along with the app or map, the app repository along with the app location or URL to pull from. It's going to be the command line ARG properties. It's going to be the associated app name. So that's what's going to be in that request, and we'll show you that in a second in real live code. The other is the unschedule, where you pass in a schedule name, say I want to remove that off, and then the various listing options that you can get to be able to retrieve a list of those schedules. Now let's see a little bit of code. Boy, I hope this feedback's not bothering you too much. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to go to my cheat sheet, and we're just going to run this little app I created. The first thing I want to do is we want to know that this app is a little unusual in that it can actually connect to both Cloud Foundry and schedule stuff on Cloud Foundry and schedule stuff on Kubernetes. So I've separated the two configurations by using Spring Profile. And we're going to start with Cloud Foundry. And we're going to just do the first thing it's going to do is if you don't pass in anything, it's always just going to give you a listing of the available schedules. There we go. Can y'all see that? Yes? No? Okay, I got a yes from somebody. All right, good. So basically what we see here is exactly what I discussed before, that you see between the stars, you'll see that it says, hey, yeah, we already got a schedule out there. Yay, it's going to run at exactly, I think it's 8:55. Oh, just a few minutes from now. We'll wait here for it to run. No? Okay. All right, let's keep going. All right, so in that case, but you can also do CF jobs and get their cut of it. So what you can also do with my magic little app is pass in a little bit more information. Let me scroll that back down. So in this case, again, I'm specifying the app name I want to give it. I'm calling it AJUG app tonight. The command is either schedule or unschedule. It's up to you what you like. You can, again, give the schedule name and then the cron expression. If we scroll down, notice that I did not specify the app I wanted because I have that in our configuration file, just because I'm lazy and I didn't want to add more stuff. But we noticed that, guess what? I called it AJUG 3. We created a new AJUG schedule out there, and we can go CF jobs and actually see it. And we'll see that we had the original Hello World, and now we have the AJUG 3. And then lastly, we can also cheat again. And then basically get rid of it. So, or unschedule it. And it should come back. Come on, there we go. And we can do CF jobs and see that it's removed. So we've seen how the application works using just those basic commands. So if we look at the code, we'll see that we have a command line runner. And like I said, it has two options. One, you can specify schedule, you can specify unschedule, and it always prints the schedules afterward. But the schedule command, which is, or should say schedule method, which is a method I have in here, basically allows you to send in the schedule name we specified, the app name that we want, and the cron expression. So what does scheduler, Spring Cloud Schedule could do for us? It gives us a schedule request, where we can pass in a get app definition. In this case, that is a method that I have in this class. And in this, it basically allows us to specify an app name and pass in the command line args. That's all this does. The scheduler properties, sorry about that. We pass in the expression, and the get scheduler properties does nothing more than pass in the cron expression to a map, and then pass in the expression that we specified. Again, since the goal of the scheduler properties is you can, right now, the only thing they both really take is that cron expression, but in the future, when they have more properties available as they advance the features, we won't be able to consume those, and that's the reason why we use that's the reason we went ahead and used a map here. Deployment properties, in this case, it just returns back an empty map, but this would contain the properties that you would want to have passed into our application environment. The schedule name, and then finally we have the artifact resource. And the artifact resource is coming from a configuration file. And for our Cloud Foundry, we're pulling it directly from Maven. So the schedule will actually go in when you schedule that app. It will actually go grab the schedule or grab the application from the Maven repository, put it in your Cloud Foundry, build the schedule around that for you, and you're done. And it does it within, you can saw where I broke it out to a single, some simplification methods, but you can see it's just basically properties, schedule name, app name, the expression you want, and a resource. And in this case, we see the Maven resource is nothing more than the group ID, your artifact ID, your version, and your extension. That's it. But if you, let's say, are using Docker, or you would rather use Docker, if you're using Kubernetes and Kubernetes only takes Docker, or if you want to use Docker in Cloud Foundry, that's certainly supportable. The expression is even easier. The Docker resource just goes out and gives you the image from the Docker repository. And again, when it sets it all up with Kubernetes, and then Kubernetes says, okay, I'll pull it in, I'll schedule the cron and run it when you tell me to. So we just saw where I took this code and really just did all the, did the foundation 3 steps that we said, schedule and schedule a list. Now let's do that with with Kubernetes instead of Cloud Foundry. Sorry about the feedback, guys. I'm trying to remember not to look down. Let's see. Okay. There we go. And we're going to have our switch it to Kubernetes. And I'm just using Minikube, by the way, so now we don't have to worry about the network as much. So now we see that we already have 2 schedules out there, AJUG 1 and AJUG 2. We can do cube, CTL, cron jobs. See that those are actually, if Glenn could type. Oh, dadgummit. What did Glenn forget for those Kubernetes fanatics? I didn't put get. Sorry. So put AJUG 1. You'll see AJUG 1, AJUG 2. So now we're going to be putting AJUG 3 out there. And there we go. We see that actually created the AJUG 3. And I didn't mean to do that. Oops. We want to actually do cube, CTL, get cron jobs. We see that it has a 3 out there, and then finally we can remove it. I told you this would be super exciting. I can see y'all like, yeah, I want to start on it tomorrow. Okay. And then lastly, we see we removed it. So that's all great and magical. You could create an app now in a regular just Spring Boot app. You can take that Spring Boot app and zoom in, get rid of that. And all you have to do is specify the Spring Cloud Scheduler SPI. You're going to select either the Cloud Foundry or the Kubernetes dependency. And with the Kubernetes dependency, you also have to pull in Fabricate. That's the only dependencies you have to have outside your regular Spring Boot app. And you can schedule your life away. But just in case you already want to have a fancy UI that does this for you, we can always go to Spring Cloud Data Flow and have it. Okay, come on, Cloud Foundry. This is Cloud Foundry, by the way, hitting off of it. Delete me. We'll give it a specialized cron expression of 50. Sorry. There we go. Schedule that task. Come on, the network. You can do it. I'm actually pitched into my phone, so. And then we see where I created del me, and then there's our cron expression right there. And voila, we see that del me is there. That's it, guys. We got scheduling, and let me go back to one more slide deck. And we have the Spring Cloud Scheduler. Cloud Foundry is available right now. It's a 1.0 release. We are still working on the scheduled Kubernetes. We actually, what you see here is actually off of a branch. We're just waiting for the folks at one more merge in from Fabricate. We submitted a PR. They've already put that in. Just waiting for them to get their release out. Once they do, we'll have it scheduled in to put it into Spring Cloud Scheduler. And that will also mean that it'll also wind its way up into Spring Cloud Data Flow Kubernetes. And questions? Yes, sir.
If it's a scheduling system, it would, some type of eventing system would be an integral part of it. Can you speak of the richness of the eventing system that will be integrated with these two solutions?
It's going to be, what you mean, for Kubernetes or Cloud Foundry?
Both. I mean, what's the offering and how wide open is it?
For Kubernetes, it's just cron jobs, and basically it's...
They've not built anything else on top of that?
No. No, it's basically pretty plain Jane. Both of them are pretty plain Jane right now. And the way that they are built is just so that you can specify your app, and it will guarantee that that app will be launched at those specific times. So right now they're bare bones. And the only thing that they offer outside the command line, and that, again, the command line is just using is the RESTful API to access it.
But there's an event object outside that's propagated, of course, that has an open API to it?
Yeah, it's Kubernetes cron jobs. It's a part, so if you pull out anything that supports V1, B1 and above, it's available. And you can use for PCF schedule, you can utilize the PCF scheduling tile. Okay, sir.
What type of Kubernetes resource is a cron job? Like you had a MySched, was that a pod or a service or what?
It's basically a job. So basically, if you ever played with Kubernetes jobs, that's a different discussion. So what it does is that with that cron job, it offers the ability, so the cron job is created. When it launches, it in turn creates a job, which then manages a pod. And that pod, once it succeeds or fails, returns back a 1, 0, X, whatever. And then the job then determines, based on the restart policy, oh, it's a 0. You're fine. Or if it sees that it's a 1 and that restart policy is on failure, it'll keep restarting it. If it's a 0, it stops. So basically, there's strengths and weaknesses on both, okay? With cron jobs, the thing is if I have 10,000 jobs that I want, or 10,000 schedules, that's 10,000 cron jobs, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. If you're using Cloud Foundry, it's not quite as heavyweight on that. It's because it's basically, again, it's a tile that manages that through a database and does the launching for you. So which way, it's based on your platform is how that's handled. But that's a good question. Okay, other scheduling questions?
Hey, Glenn, can you schedule some beer and wings in about 5 minutes at the Royal Oak?
Okay, all right, let me go ahead and do that right now. No. Thank you, folks.